this episode, we're going to talk about some of the most vile and satanic monster toys ever created in the 1980s. That's right, we're talking LJN's Dungeons & Dragons toys. So, stick around. Hello friends, and welcome to Days of Dorker Past. My name's Rob, and happy Halloween. This is the first episode in our month-long celebration of one of the best holidays ever. In this episode, we're going to talk about the LJN Dungeons & Dragons action figures. More so, the monster side of it. A little bit ago, I talked about some of the best action figures in the line. Well, now I'm going to talk about some of the best monsters. The Dungeons & Dragons toy line started in 1982, and it didn't last that long. One of the things I find most fascinating about Dungeons & Dragons in the 1980s was how loathed it was by church groups and parents, and there was even bothered about Dungeons & Dragons. So there was a whole movement to crush the role-playing game. But somehow a cartoon came out and a toy line. Against all odds, they tried, and ultimately they failed. LJN created 4 different types of monster toys, and they were the bendy toy, which was a soft plastic or rubber that had metal armature inside that you could pose and position the toy. They were the wind-up toy, which failed probably quicker than it was even created. They had the large, hollow plastic toy that went along with the action figures. They were usually the mounts and the toys. And they had PVC 2-packs. All told, there were 32 released monster toys. There were 2 wind-up toys, 6 bendy, 18 PVC, and 6 of the large figures. Today I'm going to talk about 10 of my personal favorites. This is no means a definitive list. There were some real awesome ones, but these were my favorites. So number 1 on the list is a PVC figure of a Minotaur. In the first edition Monster Manual, the Minotaur is portrayed in a black and white picture as a clothesless monster of a person. Shaggy fur, snarling look, just a nasty fellow. The thing is, with the PVC figure, they gave him a light blue tunic, and he didn't look as monstrous. It was on the large side, so with the PVCs, they got 2 figures usually, but because of how large the Minotaur was, he was only given a little treasure chest to come with. The crown jewels, I think they called it. But anyway, it was a great toy. It's one that you stumble upon more often than not, like on the flea market and Goodwill circuit. I haven't been lucky enough to find one, but I've seen other people's hauls from different flea markets and stuff, and a lot of times they find one of these guys. It is a great classic figure that you could use for almost any of your toy lines to fight. He-Man could fight the Minotaur. G.I. Joe could fight the Minotaur. He was just a classic, great figure. Next on the list is the Bronze Dragon. The Bronze Dragon was one of the more larger figures, and it was also used as a mount for the good hero Strongheart. His face was a little goofy, but with the scale of the toy and just its neat claws and saddle that it had, it was great. One of the neat things about the saddles for the mounts were they were a lot like Kenner's, like Tauntaun. or dewback, where it was a little trap door that the figure slipped into, and the saddle itself had fake legs molded into it. They were the legs of Strongheart, so it was kind of hard to put some of your other characters in it, I would assume. I'd never had one. I don't even think I've seen one in real life. But looking at pictures online, my imagination kind of takes over. Anyway, the Bronze Dragon was a great toy. From its metallic paint job, to its large wings, to its awesome bat-like medallion that was on its chest. No matter if you're a D&D player or D&D toy collector, the Bronze Dragon would look great on your shelf. Next on the list is a Fire Elemental. This was another in the PVC figures. It came in a 2-pack, but because of its size, kind of like the Minotaur, it only came with a crystal ball. I think it's very neatly designed and colored to look like flame. But the one distinguishing feature that I absolutely love about this toy are its eyes. It looks like it's glaring down at something that is annoying it, and it's going to smite it. It just has personality. They did a great job in molding a pretty basic figure of living flame and give it these eyes that speak volumes. Again, this is a toy that you could bring out into your whole toy universe. Thundercats, Silverhawks, whatever. There's always a fire dude to fight, and the Fire Elemental fits the bill perfectly. Number 4 on the list is another PVC figure, and this is the Shambling Mount. A personal favorite of mine in the D&D game. I think it's so awesome that vegetation can come to life and wreak havoc on whatever adventurers are in its way. It reminds me of Man-Thing from the Marvel Comics. Anyway, this was a PVC figure and it came in a 2-pack. It was also one of great size, and it came packaged with a treasure sack. Yes, very generic. Who cares? But you could use a sack for whatever you're playing. Like I said, toss it into your toy universe and anyone could have a treasure sack. But anyway, the Shambling Mount. It's a great representation of what they presented in the first Monster Manual. And it's just a honking, solid piece of PVC that had some weight to it. With his arm outstretched to attack whoever's in his way, the vines on its face really, really harken to Man-Thing. So you could always use this figure in a pinch. Next is the Dragoon. This is by far one of the most detailed and articulated of any of the monster figures. To what looks like a cross between a lion and a dragon, this was one of the larger toys that came out. It is beautiful. Again, like the Brass Dragon, it doesn't matter if this was something you collected or something you played, it would look great on any 80s toy buff's shelf. From its long tail to its outstretched wings to its batting paws, this is a great toy. This was a great toy and one of the best that LJN had to offer at the time. Number 6 on the list is another personal favorite of mine. They were a favorite of mine in the D&D game, the D&D cartoon, and the D&D toys. And that is the Bullywugs. Bullywugs are an amphibian race akin to frogs. This 2-pack, you got 2 awesome Bullywugs. You got one with a trident and one with a sword and shield. And since they never made any figures, well, real figures from the D&D cartoon line, this was one of the closest you could get. Because Bullywugs were one of the monsters that they fought a lot on the show. Again, I'm just a fan of Bullywugs, and yeah, any toy of them is awesome. Number 7 on the list is a Grell. This was one of the bendy toys. You had the big brain-like head of the Grell, and all of its little tentacles were bendy. It had all the details of this nasty critter. It had its beak, its tentacles, and the gross brain-like head of it. Its eyes kind of come across as something corpulent and lazy, which kind of fit this creature. There were, of course, some things that probably could make it look more scary, but, I mean, it's awesome. And it's bendy, so you could have it attack your action figures and wrap its tentacles around it and start pecking away at its head. And anyway, number 8 on the list is another large PVC figure, and that is the Umber Hawk. Another personal favorite from the game of mine. The Umber Hawk is just a nasty, bug-like humanoid that lets nothing stand in its way. The figure, with its, no pun intended, its hawking shape, awesome. Like with anything on this list, you could mix it up into your own toy universe that you created in your bedroom or living room or outside. He just was awesome. Again, with its large size, he was paired with a pile of treasure. Kinda lame, but again, a generic enough thing that you could mix it in with anything that you were playing. Something I have to point out, seeing these toys was one of the first times I saw a lot of these things in color. Growing up looking at the Monster Manual, which is all black and white, it was neat to see these things in living color. It really brought them to life. It was awesome. It was great. Umber Hawk, a great toy. Number 9 on the list, again, a personal favorite, and one that I can vividly remember seeing on... I've given the backstory before, but my parents' best friends when I was growing up were gamers. I didn't know it at the time, and it was something I realized later when I started playing, but they were hardcore gamers, and they collected the LJN action figures, and in their office they had them all displayed on the shelves with their gaming books. And this one just always stood out to me, and that was the Hook Horror. This was another one of the ones that was bigger, the hollow plastic style action figures that coincided more with the action figure than the other ones on this list did. It stood about yay big, had some articulation, but the large hooks and they look like horns, but they're actually little feathered ears in the book. But they kind of came across as yellow horns on this version, but that just looked awesome. Like I said, I remember looking at all those action figures. I loved them all, but it was just something about the Hook Horror that really grabbed me. Hooked me, if you will. Anyway, bad jokes aside, it's a great toy, and like all of them on this list that I've said a million times already, it could be a foe for any one of your action figures in your little imagination, in your little universe you created. Number 10 on the list is the biggest action figure LJN made in the Dungeons & Dragons line, and that is Tiamat. Tiamat is the mother of all evil dragons. She has the large body of a red dragon and 5 heads of the evil dragon races. The small heads were all bendy, I think, and the large red dragon head in its center was this blown hollow plastic. Again, this was the main foe of Venger and the heroes in the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. So this was another step in actually having some action figures from the cartoon, which was, no, we didn't get any. It's sad that we never did. There's some out there now. I've seen statues recently that look awesome. Very, very great detail, very expensive. They're just beautiful. Anyway, sorry for the tangent. Tiamat, a huge dragon figure. Beautifully made. Yes, it could have been made better, but in 1982, that's some of the best toy that you could have gotten. This was just a quick look at pretty much a third of all the monster toys that LJN made in the Dungeons & Dragons toy line. This list was made up of a lot of my personal favorites. Like I said, there are some great ones out there, and we'll talk about them another day. But for right now, these were just 10 that I loved, and with it being Halloween, I thought, monsters, Halloween, what better way to talk about them? Anyway, this was just a quick look, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please give a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you liked this episode, and you like some of these other ones that are being recommended, please hit subscribe. And hit that little bell and you'll be notified whenever there's a new episode. So, until next time, keep being rad and stay dorky.